Hi. So for this case study, I wanted to do a case study of a change that a lot of us attempt to make at one point in our adult lives or another. Um, so this is one for healthy lifestyle changes. I have a few caveats because I know this is a really sensitive topic. One, I'm not a doctor of any sort. Second, I'm not a healthcare practitioner of any sort. So I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a personal trainer. Um, I, this is just my experience. Third, and this is from my experience, if you're doing this to work with an addiction, whether it's to food or alcohol or something else, I recommend doing this exercise with a sponsor, or if you're part of a program, or with professional help if you're seeing a therapist, or if you have a sober accountability partner, and that partner needs to be someone who, or you're really looking for that partner to be someone who has already accomplished what you're trying to accomplish with this change. Um, and just so you know, this exercise is from my personal experience. Your experience, your resources, and the environment that you're working with may vary. So there's certain things when you're looking at the scope of this where this exercise is going to be really good. One, you want to ask if this is going to impact another person. If you're trying to just, hey, I need to drink more water, probably not going to impact anybody else. If, however, you're looking to stop drinking, often there's a very social component around that. If you're looking to do major dietary changes and you have people living with you, or if it's something where the dietary changes you wish to make, a lot of families have food rituals, and you're going to have to be mindful of those food rituals. I think it's worth at least going through this as a pass fairly quickly just to see where you might wind up inadvertently impacting someone else. The other scope consideration is this a long-term or permanent change? Now, even if it's not, so let's say you're looking to do, say, the keto diet for 30 days to take off 10 pounds. I think it's going to be handy just so that you're also thinking in terms of how you off-ramp that change or what you're trying to do. But, you know, if it's super short term, like, hey, I think I'm just going to quit coffee for 30 days, that's that's only really going to impact anybody if you get really cranky. And that's not going to necessarily be a long-term change. So, you know, I think with this exercise, spend the time with it relative to the scope of the impact and the scope of the change that you wish to make. So all that said, I'm going to give you my demonstration of what I'm considering right now for myself. And so we're going to go through 4 passes of this. The first 2 passes are decision points. So we're going to go through a short-term pass, and then we're going to go through a long-term pass. And then we're going to say, okay, is this something I actually want to do? If the answer is yes, then we're going to do 2 more passes. We're going to see what we already have. And I think that's very important to recognize that we already have quite a bit to work with. And it makes that change a little less daunting. And then what we need. And we're going to do this in the context of 4 quadrants. A lot of the changes that we're looking at in these case studies are changes that we individually are making. But there's other things that are also impacted. The changes we make do wind up impacting others. They wind up, which is going to be the it quadrant, they wind up impacting the relationship that, and I'm going to go ahead and put this laser point. So they impact us, obviously. They impact others, sometimes in ways that we're not really thinking about when we decide to make a change. They impact the relationships we have with others. So oftentimes if we're making a change, we do need to set some boundaries with other people, or we need to set expectations with other people. So kind of renegotiating how we're engaging with others. Also, we may be modeling behavior as well. And then the its, which is, I've put this area pretty much as your mechanicals, so any systems that you have in place, any materials that you need, the money that you need. So the change that I'm wishing to make is, I've put down Go Primal. There is something called the Primal Blueprint that Mark and Mark Sisson has done. I've played with it before. I think it's a pretty good baseline. And my why is really I'm trying to get higher energy. I'm also aware that my diet since back when I was doing CrossFit has gotten not so healthy. And I'm sure that's having an impact on my energy levels and how I feel on a day-to-day basis. Also, my clothing's starting to get a little tight, and I kind of like to take care of that before I have to go out and buy new clothes, and it's getting tight in like the wrong direction, so I kind of want to stop that. I'll be interested to see whether or not that why is strong enough to keep me going when things get kind of tricky. So I might wind up reevaluating this, but that's what I have right now. Really, my goal is higher energy, and so as I evaluate the process, that's going to be my indicator. So my first pass is the short term, and so some of the short term things I came up with in 5 minutes sitting down with this particular section is I do need to set stronger boundaries both with myself and others around workouts. My partner is working from home a lot more frequently, and for whatever reason, I tend to be shy about working out around other people if I'm not in a gym or in a class. So I need to get over myself and just set aside some time and do it. I need to start planning meals again. There's been too many instances recently where I know my partner and I will sit there and look at each other. What do you want to eat? I don't know. I don't know. I don't feel like cooking. Okay. And then we order out or go get fast food or something. That's kind of got to slow down. I also do need to plan the workouts and then actually go do them. I found that if I go into the gym or if I even work out here with a plan or have a really concrete idea of what I'm going to get accomplished that day, I've been a lot more inclined to get it done. That's just me. I need to remind myself that I am fit and healthy. I'm getting close to 50. I think I'm doing okay, but I need to keep reminding myself of that. And the mindset I need to maintain is that I do what I say what I'm going to do, I'm disciplined, and I execute my plan. Now, that said, I do reserve the right for myself to execute that plan imperfectly or change the plan if my energy levels are really, really low that day. I do have a couple of chronic issues, so I need to be willing to be flexible, but still maintain the discipline of, okay, if maybe lifting heavy weights isn't going to work for me that day because my joints are bothering me, maybe doing yoga. So getting very clear, again, I'm after higher energy, but it's getting very clear about what the intention is for that. In the and I'm gonna look at this as how this impacts other people, whether I want it to impact them or not. The big person this impacts, frankly, is my partner because I do a lot of the cooking. And if I'm doing a diet, he's either going to have to cook for himself or be cool with going along for the ride. So one of the changes, we've been eating a lot more pasta these days, and bread and that sort of thing. I know the Primal Blueprint's not very crazy about that stuff. So probably he's going to be seeing a lot more meals without grains. And one of the other things that I need to do, and I put this in italics because of it's something I need to ask, or it's something I'm not terribly certain of, and so I need to go get more information, is I do need to ask him about the impact of just setting aside time for workouts, and setting aside space and privacy for workouts. I don't think it's going to be a big deal, but I don't want to make that assumption. So this tells me I need to go ask some questions. And that's a good thing. We want to surface what questions we need to ask or where we're not entirely certain of information. In terms of the we, it's how I'm interacting with other people and how I'm modeling for other people. So one of the things that we need to do, so with Ryan, I need to negotiate time and space for workouts. And, again, as we put together that contract with each other, kind of maintain that between the two of us and maintain those boundaries. Also negotiating meals, I do want him actively involved in this process. It does impact him. I don't want to do 2 meals. He's really good at fending for himself if what I'm making is not to his liking, but I just assume have him be a partner to this process. Friends and family. Now, again, there is a social component. In my family in particular, and maybe yours too, we're super into food. So I know that sharing with them what I'm doing and why. I'm very fortunate to also have a very supportive family and very supportive friends. Uh, again, this is just let them know, ask for help, see what comes back. That way I'm not getting inadvertently sabotaged. And I also get feedback too. I know that there's been some changes where friends have not necessarily been all that supportive, and that's good to surface. Uncomfortable, but good to surface. So you're also bringing out risks as well, particularly if there's particular friends that might be causing you problems. So let's say your relationship with a friend is, and this is from my own experience, let's say a relationship with some of your friends are all about being drinking buddies, and you decide to quit drinking. You're going to learn real quick about what the foundation of that relationship is. So knowing that you're going to surface that, it's good to be prepared. And then also with friends and family, one of the things about food in a lot of cultures, and I know food with my family and maybe yours too, is that oftentimes you may have someone who cooks your favorite thing because they know it's your favorite thing. It's an expression of love. There's a couple of ways to handle this, particularly if you're dieting and you're on a diet that has some restrictions. One is selectively eat what is offered, maybe not take as much as usual. Count it as, hey, I'm showing my values. And then, on your own time, go, okay, how am I going to accommodate this? The other is, hey, I love you. Maybe there's a better way we can do this. Again, that's up to you. I know my preference based on my values is, look, if my mom makes me like German chocolate cake, I'm having a slice of German chocolate cake. Again, your choice, but that's my selection. And then finally, the its. So this is all the systems. So groceries, what do you need to shop for? And any diet or health plan will typically be good about giving you grocery lists. And, for me, it's eat real food, minimize processed things. Go around the circumference of the grocery store. Meal prep. So I know short term I'm going to need to get a lot more disciplined about setting aside an hour for meals and meal prep, usually in the evenings. And I think what I need to add to that as I'm looking at this again, also setting aside time and planning for things that I eat for breakfast and lunch. I do work from home. Uh, for those of you who are working at an office, making sure that you're setting aside time for meal prep for lunch, or no, and then eating out, identifying friendly restaurants. I think that's really handy because sometimes you just flat out don't feel like cooking. So knowing that you've got some go-tos that help support the lifestyle change you're wishing to make, very, very helpful. I'm very fortunate. I live in a major metropolitan area with really good restaurants. Uh, some of you may not be so lucky. So just identify what you've got to work with. And then workout. I need to figure out what workouts I want to do. I've always been a big fan of having plans. A lot of people don't. And also gear check. What do I have to work with? Particularly if I need to work out or want to work out from home. So that's the short-term pass. Now, longer term, because I'm looking at this as a lifestyle shift, there's some longer term changes I need to make. For those of you who are looking at this more as a short term, I'm trying to drop 10 pounds before my high school reunion, this is where you also look at things like off-ramping. So what do you want to do after you finish that really strict diet? This is where I would actually recommend getting a nutritionist to help you, because they may be able to help you with that off-ramp process and with longer term changes. So in the long term for myself, I know I need to get really good at maintaining those boundaries around workouts, particularly when I get busy. So I'm in a busy time right now because I'm doing a lot of writing, which is really sedentary, and it's gotten way too easy for me to decide to stay on the couch and surf the net versus actually working out. So I have to maintain those boundaries. Also with travel, travel tends to throw my schedule off, and I've heard it throws a lot of other people's schedules off in terms of, eating and exercise. So determining a plan, making sure I determine a plan for what I'm going to do when I travel is going to be key. Also scheduling. So I need to make sure that I set that time aside for meal and workout planning and considering that part of my day. And if I'm a meeting person or to have a lot of meetings, just making sure that time is blocked and being really disciplined. So the mindset is I'm disciplined and I execute my plan, and the belief I need to maintain is I am fit and healthy. And because one of the things that I found really powerful for me is reminding myself that I'm already those things. And it took a long time for me to get there. When I was coming from a place where I wasn't fit and healthy, and right now I'm coming from a place where, yeah, I'm kind of fit, I've let things go, I haven't been feeling that healthy, but reminding myself, okay, I am fit and healthy. I will be fit and healthy. That's been helpful, because I'd rather, it's one thing, it's like internally, oh yeah, I'm fit and healthy, and I'm a shambling wreck. So I'm also trying to maintain some integrity too. And I think that's where the power of, the power of those affirmations is really helpful, because if there's like a disconnect between, what you're trying to say to yourself and what you're manifesting in the outside world, at some point you're going to want to resolve that disconnect. And it's really easy to resolve the disconnect as, oh my God, what the heck am I saying? But I invite you to consider maybe other ways to resolve the disconnect. It's like, okay, I'm working on being fit and healthy, but resolving the disconnect where, okay, how do I get to where I want to really display that? I think that could be really powerful. After that, I'm going to get off my soapbox on that. In the it section, there's a couple of things I'm watching for. So one of the things that is worth remembering, and I know this is really valuable for me too, is that the it section is all the behaviors I have no control over. I have no control over what happens outside of the meat case. That's me. That's my body. So, really, it's a matter of observing behavior in this section and kind of keeping an ear out. So, I know that this section for me is somewhat incomplete. I may do one more pass, but at this point, I need to get cracking on this change. But a couple things I'm looking for long term. One is to see whether or not Ryan's inspired to join me in either this or the exercise. He does do some of his own exercise, and you know, I leave him to it. But I'm listening for that, and I just need to make sure I'm open when, you know, if he decides to go, hey, Wendy, I'd like to join you. And also friends and family. Now, again, that's a practice that I need to do to make sure, hey, you know, stay open and see if anybody wants to join me on this little adventure. And then in the we, again, the we is the relationship I have with others, and how we interact. So with Ryan, who's my partner, you know, just maintaining boundaries around, you know, me going to work out. And then also asking for input on meals. You know, keeping him engaged because that's the area that he's really impacted, beyond maybe losing a little bit of time as I, you know, go pick up iron or move myself around a bit. And then with friends and family, again, it's maintaining kind of, you know, selectively eating what's offered, and that includes dessert. And maintaining any boundaries that I need to, and I need to add that there, but maintaining any boundaries that I need to maintain. So, for instance, you know, I've been sober for 7.5 years as of this recording. One boundary that, you know, I still have to regularly maintain is don't drink alcohol. And everybody's gotten pretty good about that at this point. But you know, early on, that was, you know, that was something I had to repeatedly maintain, and you still do, or I still do. That's a pretty regular boundary I have to maintain, particularly with people who don't know me really well. In the it's section, so this is the resources and the systems. With groceries, so long term. So with groceries, I'm very fortunate in that I have a model, and it's my cousin Mary Beth. And when we went to visit her in Oregon, she opened up her fridge, and it was this complete wonderland of fresh produce and super fresh foods. And my aspiration is to have a refrigerator that looks like hers. Um, I wish I took a picture of it because it looked like something that should be posted on Instagram. It was pretty amazing. So that's kind of a long-term model. Meal prep, again, maintaining that 1 hour for meals and meal prep. Eating out, so one of the things I need to do long term is just determine a system. So particularly when I'm traveling, being able to glance, okay, is this something that's going to support the lifestyle, no, this lifestyle I'm trying to develop or not in terms of my health. And then for the workout, determining what's working and what's not. So there's a little bit of metrics, and because I know that my why is higher energy, it's keeping an eye on whether or not when I leave those workouts I'm energized, and if and how I feel a day or two later. So one of the things, and this is just personal information, take it as well. One of the things that I've noticed for myself is that things that I used to do 10 years ago, I used to do CrossFit, I used to do really heavy weightlifting. Unfortunately, when I overdo it, it kills me. I may feel fine afterwards, but then a day or two later, I feel like I've been run over by a truck. And it's not the I've worked out and my muscles are sore run over by a truck. It is like existential exhaustion. So I have to be very mindful about how I push myself. So it's that level of evaluation. in terms of evaluating what's working. And that's going to be a long-term thing for me. So now that I've done the short term and the long term, I can make a decision. In this particular instance, my decision is yes, but I also know that I'm going to need to break it down a bit. So the next step, now that I've decided yes, is to figure out what I have to work with and what I'm going to need. And so the first pass is what I have to work with. What resources do I already have available? And the important part of this resourcing is I'm trying to bridge the gap between my current state and my desired state. So I'm very grateful in that I've been exercising and sort of toying with healthy lifestyle changes now for the better part of 11 years. So thankfully I've got some prior knowledge to work with. In this case, some of the resources I've had to work with is one, I actually did paleo for, I think I managed to make it 17 days. So I have an idea of where I'm going to get derailed. I also have an idea of some of the hazards and risks. Paleo is really great for people that it works really great for. Uh, I wasn't terribly successful, and the only reason is because I wound up losing weight way too quickly. And yeah, I was a shambling wreck at the end of it. One of the coach I was working with at the time saw me after 17 days. It's like, when do you need to stop? So don't do anything that's gonna endanger your health. A lot of people are very successful on paleo diets, and it's worth trying just to see whether or not that's something you can maintain. I have had a steady workout program for over 10 years. It's been a little more touch and go the past few years, but I do know that I can do that. For many of you that are not, exercise is pretty lame. I think it's a matter of finding, this is probably going to sound really trite, but finding something you enjoy, or just moving around. And I would recommend finding an exercise coach for this, particularly one who's really good with the types of issues that you've had. Don't try to find someone that's like, oh, we're gonna, power through things. You don't want that type of coach. So I do have some familiarity with the Primal Blueprint and Primal Eating and Primal Lifestyle. I do have the books, so I can get more knowledge. Thankfully, I can also cook. Yay. A lot of people can't and may not be terribly interested in cooking, so, which is absolutely cool. Thankfully, these days there are services that do provide meals, and so that may be something worth resourcing. And then also mindset. I am disciplined. I do what I say I'm going to do. I execute on my plan. Maintaining that mindset is going to be really key for me, because this is an area that I know from my past experience that I start making excuses. In the it area, so again, this is how this impacts other people. And this is where I'm really looking at who are my allies and who will help me with this. Thankfully, Ryan's very supportive, and he encourages me to get out. And when I first started working out, he had some really grave concerns about what I was doing. He's seen the results, so he's really, really supportive now. And he encourages me to do that. Plus, he gets the added bonuses. So, and then friends and family. A lot of them are, I'm looking for the ones who are open and supportive, and aren't just like, oh, what do you think you're doing? So, finding the allies among them. And then in terms of the we relationship, uh, I think with him, he is supportive. I just need to make sure I talk to Ryan first. And then the other thing that I know with my friends and family that if they're already doing is that they are keeping an eye on me. And so it's really important that I ask them, hey, as I go through this, please keep an eye on me. And I know from my paleo experience that I do need to ask them, to please note whether or not they see any significant behavioral changes, particularly if I'm starting to be really nasty to people. Sometimes diets will do that. If I seem really drawn out, if I seem really skinny, I've had that happen as well. So I know from my experience, I really need to have people keep an eye on me as I do this. Your mileage may vary. Um, and then in terms of resources, uh, I know that when I go grocery shopping, thankfully I've gotten in the habit where a lot of my grocery shopping has been on the fringes, so protein and produce. Uh, Probably minus the ice cream. Probably maybe not do so much of that. So, I mean, there's some tweaks that need to happen there, but for the most part, if I stay on the fringes, I should be okay. I do already set aside an hour for meals and preparation. It's just pretty much maintaining that. I do have one restaurant that we go to if we're looking at each other, neither of us feels like cooking. It's like, let me just go pick up a salad. Um, we do need to find more. So, or, take a look at the places we tend to go and see if there's anything that we need to maybe focus on more than some of the stuff we tend to eat. I also do have knowledge about workouts. I've been very fortunate in that I've been healthy enough to have an exercise program for a pretty long time. And I do have resources available. I just need to pick one. And I also have a better idea of what's working for me these days and what isn't. And I do have books. So I do have quite a bit of reference material. I don't need to go out and buy this. So those are the resources I have. Thankfully, I have a lot to work with. If all of this is really new to you, that is perfectly fine. We all have to start somewhere. In terms of needs, again, I did this pass. This is my experience. One of the things, however, that I do think is really important for those of us wishing to make permanent changes is to look at this in terms of small focused steps and gradual changes and really checking how you feel. I know that the changes that have tended to stick have tended to be ones that were small and I could focus on that and make sure they stuck. And then I could add something else. John Berardi at Precision Nutrition has a pretty good benchmark, and I think it's like you have to have at least 95% of, feeling 95% that you could succeed at this. And if you fail, okay, well, let's make this easier. The idea is to build confidence in your change and to have the change stick. Does it mean I'm going to go from, my current lifestyle of, sitting on the couch and eating a little more junk food than normal? I should, but I know that that won't stick. So it's just a matter of me deciding what those small focus steps are going to be. Also, I do need to go get an exam. I kind of think it's recommended anytime you're planning on significant lifestyle changes. And I need to do this for two reasons. One is just to make sure there isn't anything else going on that I should be aware of. The other is baseline. Getting a much better map of where I'm at now. Again, part of the driver behind this is I have not been feeling very energetic this past year. Been fighting a little bit of chronic fatigue. Still trying to make sure that it's not something more serious other than just the existential tiredness. So I think that's really important. And then I need to maintain a belief that I'm energetic and healthy and that I'm capable of being energetic and healthy. Again, I haven't been feeling that way for the better part of a year, probably longer, but I think that's really important. And then again, that mindset of I'm disciplined and execute my plan. I do what I say I'm going to do. So these are the things I really need. In terms of what I need from others, uh, I need to find accountability partners, particularly in this area. Uh, Probably need to go find a coach again. In the workout area, I've been finding that having, irregardless of how the workouts are, having someone that I've got an appointment to go see has been incredibly helpful. And recently, as soon as I have not had that appointment, it's been too easy for me to stay on the couch. So I need that. And then encouragement. Thankfully, all I need to do is ask. And that's where this comes in, is just asking for encouragement. And then also, again, asking that people keep an eye on me, just to make sure I don't go overboard, because I might do that. I've been known to do that. Resources. So I need to schedule regular time for workouts and make sure that those are set appointments that do not get rescheduled. I've gotten a little slack about letting other things get in the way of that. And then also, I just need to make sure that I set aside regular time for food and workout planning. I used to do this like back when I was doing CrossFit and for a couple years afterward, where every Sunday I'd sit down with, cookbooks and, my workout journal and just plan the week. It was a couple-hour process, but it was a process I really enjoyed. Again, your mileage may vary on that, but I think having, at least in the early going, some time set aside in terms of what you're going to eat and the workouts, I found it really valuable, and it wound up allowing me like the mental space. I wasn't thinking about, okay, well, what am I going to have for dinner? It's already on my plan, so, or what I planned that week. So I need to go do that. So that's my example of the change planning. This particular pass through took me about 20 minutes altogether. It probably took me longer to explain this than it took me to do it. My recommendation is to do one pass, let it sit for a day, sleep on it, do another pass, see if you've forgotten anything. And there's a few things that come out of this, and I know for me what's come out of this exercise has been, I just need to sit down and do some planning. I need to do some scheduling. I need to go find an accountability partner. And my next step is to determine what small change I'm going to make this week to make this real. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to comment on this video or on the blog post. I hope this helps, and thank you so much for your help and support.